Hey, how's it going? This is GB. I got Brian and Coop with me. It's the Sports Counterpoints podcast on August 27th, 2024. What's up, guys?
Hey, good to see y'all again.
Yeah, good to be back, man. So we got a little bit we're right on the cusp of the NFL season, man. Just had the draft for Brian's league a second ago. So that was fun with all the guys. Shout out to everybody in the Gridiron League. Um, Brian's, not the most enthused about his team, but you got to see what happens. You know what I mean? So we're back
Brian,
to it.
Brian, did you get a draft gate of a D minus or something?
D plus.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But when I have the last pick. It's a keeper league, so the top of the draft sheets are pretty depleted by the time it gets down there. And then, as I was telling Glenn, it was like there's just this thing this year with weeks 12 and 14, where every team that has offensive players, which you need in fantasy football, is on bye in weeks 12 and 14. So I was like, oh, okay, I can still draft a backup quarterback, because I have Burrow. And sure as could be, I get to the point, and every backup that's worth a thing is in bye weeks 12 and 14. So I had to make a decision I am very unhappy about and drafted Deshaun Watson as my backup quarterback.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yikes!
All right.
I didn't even see that. Good editing too. I saw
Silver
you.
lining is he can always tell you where a good massage parlor is.
I
But
saw
Yeah. I'm gonna need one to feel a little bit better. My dad actually just recently bought a massage.
Oh man,
Jonathan was telling me.
funny.
Yeah. Word, man. So yeah, so we're back into it. We're talking a little bit about football. Kind of, this is our precursor to next week we're gonna have the full division by division and conference breakdown. So we'll do that next week. But for now, just kind of what's happening in the week. It's all football all the time right now. So we'll talk about some of the roster cuts that happened. We'll talk about CeeDee getting paid. We'll talk about a couple players that Jason had the idea of, kind of just players you're excited to watch or just cheer for, you know what I mean, regardless of, and then any rookies we're kind of excited about. So, I mean, kind of let's start out with the roster cuts. Teams go down to their 53-man rosters now. Anybody that was a surprise to you, or anybody that might be out there that you think your team should pick up as far as offensive linemen, Jason?
That offensive lineman dig we were talking about before the show, how the
It's bad,
49ers
bro.
need offensive linemen, and
For at least 5 years.
yeah, and Glenn GB was suggesting that we go out and pick up everyone that got cut and try them out. But as far as surprise cuts, I think the first one that comes to my mind is Mike White, the quarterback, the Miami Dolphins. He played pretty decent when he was with them, so I don't expect him to be unemployed for too much longer. He should hit a roster within the next couple of days, but that was a surprising cut. One cut that I'm reading that people think is surprising, but I said he never should have been drafted anyway, was Desmond Ridder. I never saw him as an NFL quarterback when I watched him in Cincinnati. I was never a fan and didn't really understand why he was drafted. Didn't play really well in Atlanta, and he just got cut by some team. I'm not sure. So I'm not sure if Desmond Ridder, he might be like Trey Lance, look like his shelf life is pretty much probably coming to an end, especially after Trey Lance's performance last game, 5 interceptions and two fumbles. But also, before I let you go, Brian, I saw way too many Miami Hurricanes that played, 4, 5, 6 years ago get cut today. Philip Dorsett, Shaquille Quarterman, just a whole lot of players. Lawrence Cager got cut. So I think that's representative of the talent that we brought in at Miami. They're not good enough to make the NFL rosters, but just going down the list, I saw a lot of Miami players get cut. So sad. But Brian, any players that stood out to you that got cut?
Yeah, so I'll start on wide receivers. The first one that was really actually surprising to me was Noah Brown and the Houston Texans. One, because he's got guaranteed money, so they're going to eat $3 million that they just gave him. I mean, they just gave the guy the contract. It's guaranteed money. And it wasn't this weekend. I was at another draft, and we were talking about how much depth they had at wide receiver on that team with Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins and Tank Dell and Noah. And then they also have Robert Woods on there. And it was one of those things where you're like, wow, CJ Stroud's just got a wealth of wide receivers to throw to. He's going to be in a good place. Well, cutting people with guaranteed contracts is always surprising, but especially surprising when it was a position of strength for them. And the money's going away anyway. So and he played well. I mean, he posted back-to-back 150-yard games in week 8 and week 8 and 9 before getting hurt last year. That's pretty good. And then put up an 8 and 82 and 1 line, so 8 receptions, 82 yards, and 1 touchdown in week 14 when he came back from injury. So his book of business in the actual games was pretty darn solid to end up on a waiver wire right after getting a guaranteed deal. The other one was Kadarius Toney. He's another one of these wide receivers that had guaranteed money. They're going to eat $2.5 million of salary if someone doesn't pick him up off waivers, which I can't imagine anyone's going to do. If they're going to pick him up, they're going to wait till he gets waived.
Yeah, just wait.
But Kadarius, they just traded for him 2 years ago, and he maybe not the guy that they needed, but the one thing that the Chiefs have been hurting for is wide receivers, so much so that they went and just signed a recently cut Juju Smith-Schuster, which I guess made Toney expendable. But again, you've already paid the man the money, so that doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me. Isaiah Spiller on the Chargers, I think, is a little bit surprising, just because the Chargers have had a lot of problems with depth at running back and injuries. And Isaiah Spiller has, been a solid, not great guy, but he's somebody that you would at least expect to have been able to hang around. Another wide receiver was Tim Patrick for the Denver Broncos, because it wasn't but 2 years ago that people were talking about how big and tall and how he was a mismatch waiting to happen. And not 2 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. And now he's an old guy, but it's still, I was surprised to see the shine come off of him so quickly. That's really it. The other one that's kind of weird to me is actually the Vikings player. So they cut in Nwangwu, who's been the kick returner and punt returner for the Vikings. I think he leads the league in active players who in kick return touchdowns since 2020, and was like 3rd or 4th in the league in average yards on a kick return. So it was a little weird to see how he didn't make it there. He was kind of a running back kick returner, and so I understand that they have Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler, but special teams does matter. And when you have somebody who was as reliable as he was, consistent as he was at that position, I was a little shocked to see that he ended up on the cut list.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't know y'all had N'Keal Harry.
Yeah, and so not only do we have N'Keal Harry, but we're also looking at playing him at tight end these days. He's played like the last 2 preseason games at tight end.
They waived him.
He's a big, and then there you go. And then decided that they're going to go a different direction. They also put Hawkinson on the PUP list, and so we don't get him for at least the first 4 weeks. But there has been some recent mumbling about how he might not be ready even then, and it might be more of a mid-season thing. So that's a big dent in an otherwise strong offensive personnel.
Whenever you go from wide receiver to tight end, it never, or just people go to tight end, period, it never works out. Tim Tebow, all these guys, it just doesn't work out. It's a tough decision.
I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up on the practice squad and ends up actually getting called up a couple times throughout the season to be a player, but we'll see.
It's a trip, bro. Cuts and waves are cold. I mean, Sterling Shepard, who was a pretty solid part of that Giants team, was waiver release from the Bucks. I mean, I'm looking at Jonathan Abram, who's on the Raiders for the years and played okay for the Saints. Gone. Equiminius St. Brown, gone from the
I didn't know he was still in the league. Okay. He was with you guys, the Raiders?
The Saints.
Playing
with the Saints. He's gone. Like, it's kind of crazy, man. I mean, there's a lot of players out here. I mean, to that point, if you're getting waived or released, you're you get somewhere in a new environment, you might have a shot, but most likely you're not. They're not waiving you if you're a superstar. In here, but crazy.
What was crazy about these 49er picks, people who got drafted, people got cut, is these people were, 3rd round picks just a couple years ago. Guys like Danny Gray, 3 years ago, 3rd
Brandon
round pick.
Parker was with us.
Lewis signed for us, first round pick, I think.
You got Samuel Womack, 5th round pick. I mean, these guys are still in their rookie contract deal. And the 49ers are like, we made a mistake. You're not good enough. And like I said, I respect teams that move on from players rather than keep bad players and not handle the bad press. I mean, if a guy can't play, a guy can't play. You don't have time to waste. Get somebody in there that can play. But I'm just looking at these guys, the 49ers, and some of these guys are just, high, draft picks that they, invested time and thought they were going to be, whatever, and it didn't work out.
Shouldn't have signed Sammy
How-
Womack.
Yeah, exactly. How bad do you have to be a number 1 pick, using this as Lewis sign for the Vikings, in a position of weakness for the team, or corner?
Yeah.
You're only 2 years removed from being drafted.
Right.
You got to be really bad and have a bad attitude for them to say,
Yeah.
hey,
Definitely.
it's a position of weakness.
Right.
On a team where we've already got somebody who has first round grade talent. By the way, you're out. So
Yeah,
I don't know
guaranteed
what,
money too. If it's a first round pick, that's guaranteed money for that first contract.
Yeah, it's guaranteed money, but when you don't care about the money, Brian, that shows you how they feel about you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I actually generally like the Minnesota general manager and Quasi, but that means that the first 2 picks of his tenure are now on the cut, right? So the other guys, Andrew Booth Jr. And Lewis Hine, both of them are out. So maybe he's a very good GM, but maybe we need to find a different person to do
Scout
talent evaluation.
Yeah.
Scouting team.
But football, you're not going to hit on every pick, man. It's hard. You hit on 30%.
That's true, but you don't need to miss on both of your first 2 picks.
And then that's true too. Yeah, I give you that.
You got a small book of bit. You got a small, a small reference. Work a bit, body of work. You gotta nail at least one of those.
Right. I was looking at Rocky Sin getting the cornerback getting cut from y'all. I wonder if the Raiders signed him because we need a.
Wasn't he with y'all before?
He was, and they need a veteran cornerback. I wonder if he ends up coming back.
I think he went somewhere and they signed him in the offseason with some other guys, try to shore up that defense, and I guess he didn't work out too well.
Yeah, I think he was injured though, right?
I'm not sure. I don't watch preseason. I have no idea.
I mean, I think he was injured for part of it and got let go. But it's Lyle Collins from the Bills. I thought was interesting too, just because he's a few years removed from being pretty solid.
Well, he went from the Cowboys. They let him go. And they know linemen pretty well. He went to the Bengals.
The Bengals, right?
Try to help Joe Burrow. And they let him go. So he must not be the same Lyle Collins as he was a few years ago.
Must be.
Because in football you could fall off a cliff like really quick. I mean, you can really quick.
Yeah, they let go. And for the Bills, Andy Isabella and KJ Hamler, who were making a little bit of noise.
Andy Isabella, he's a wide receiver, I believe.
Wide receiver, and KJ Hamler too, who's on the Broncos to let both of them go. Both receivers. For a team that's trying to figure out receivers, they must have it figured out. So, I mean, it's definitely interesting. It'll be curious to see where guys go, right? Because people get cut and then they end up on other teams, and sometimes that new, a change of scenery can help.
Yeah.
So we'll see what when Bailey Zappi ends up as the 3rd quarterback on the Niners, how well he does in that offense.
Hell funny. Completely off the subject, Brian, Glenn. I don't know if y'all knew this, but I did not know until about a few weeks ago. The NFL has a database of every single NFL contract, and everybody in NFL, all these GMs have access to it. So when they model contracts, they pretty much just look at what the last guy did and just make a couple of modifications there. And then that's it. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
That makes sense.
I never knew that. They can just go in there and see so they can actually see the real numbers of what somebody got. Like, of course we get the fluff, but they can actually see the real numbers of what somebody is getting, for the length of their contract and per year. And they can just model the next guys right after that with just, a few more dollars or whatever. I never knew that. Never knew that.
Yeah, I did know that, but it is a good resource. It is becoming a little bit cookie cutter on the contract situation.
Yeah. So I wonder. So the reason I'm saying that is because I'm wondering if Ayuk's deal might be similar to CeeDee Lamb's, but just maybe $1 or $2 more or whatever. Not literally, figuratively $1, but you know what I mean? Just a little bit more, just so you can be happy. Not sure. But
I will say that's exactly what Ayuk is hoping for, and I just don't get it because he's not as good as these other. He's not the best of those wide receivers. He's not as good as CeeDee Lamb. He's not as good as Justin
Jefferson. You don't think he's better than CeeDee Lamb? Oh, I do.
Nope.
Oh. Nope. I don't think he's better than some others, but I think he's better than
Justin Jefferson. Nope.
No.
Chase doesn't have his deal yet, but and Chase will likely get a better deal because
Chase is better.
Later.
He should.
Chase is better too.
Yeah, Chase is better. CeeDee's okay, but I'd rather have Ayuk.
I might take Ayuk too.
I'll take Ayuk over CeeDee. He won't CeeDee playoffs because he will CeeDee money. He will CeeDee money, but he won't CeeDee playoffs. Yes.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna have a new quarterback too.
Ayuk has the advantage of having Debo on the other side. I'm sorry, Glenn. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's true. Well, Ayuk benefits from the total offense. I mean that.
Yep.
But Cowboys offense wasn't terrible, but yeah, it's
But
better
you
than
have,
the
but you
Niners
also
is
have
better.
to understand though, Ayuk is never going to get 100 catches in the 49ers offense. That's just not how it's designed. He's not
Nope.
going to get 100 catches.
He's a stretch, but that's his role, like CeeDee Lamb, is to be a stretch deep ball player, right? So, Debo's the one that's got to keep him short and make plays out of him.
Yeah, McCaffrey. Yeah, interesting.
I don't know about Debo too much,
well,
but yeah, probably McCaffrey. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and CeeDee gets, what do we say his contract was?
136 million, 100
years.
million guaranteed, 38 million a year average.
4 years.
That's nuts. It's interesting
That's
because these
real money.
contracts, man, they go up and down, and like I kind of feel like the receiver contracts and probably the quarterback contracts are going to do what the running back contracts did a little while ago. You got to pay a quarterback. You got to, you need your receivers, but
Well, now you got to pay a receiver.
I can't see you paying. If you have a top receiver and quarterback, you're paying 100 million a year.
Well, that's why the Cowboys are in the position they're in now, because they're so top heavy on salaries, which is why they don't really, make deep playoff runs. They don't have a team. They got very top heavy guys, and just be honest with you, they're not the best guys in their position, and they're making top level money. So
that's how it goes, right? I mean, that's why Trevor Lawrence, who's solid, but I mean, he's getting that money, and all these other guys who just got recent deals, because that's how this works. If you're an agent, you're like, I just need more than the other guy, right? Because that's your bread. And then you're a player, you're like, yeah, I want more than the other guy. But it's interesting because of the cap. So how's that going to affect? And Brian was already saying years ago, having a $50 million quarterback's gonna be hard to win with. Chiefs have done it, but they've also not splurged on other positions. They don't have any top paid receivers, or they didn't pay Chris Jones top level money yet, or any of those.
No, they played Chris Jones.
But also remember, this was an extension, and so the pain starts when they had to make cuts over the last year, where it was a little bit thinner, and then this year. And we'll talk next week, but I do think that the reign in the top is over for the Chiefs. I think they're a playoff team, but not a championship.
And then plus Mahomes' contract is going further and further down the list, because these guys are getting paid more than him on an average per year basis. So it's not going to seem as crazy, 3-4 years from now.
Yeah, it was 10 year 50, right? Like that's actually pretty smart. It's gonna be looking good now. But definitely, like, it's very interesting because those, if you have a top edge rusher, quarterback, and receiver, that's going to cost very, very large portion of your cap. You know what I mean? So I'm curious, like for your Niners, how that's going to work, because once they have to pay Purdy,
we have a lot of top level players. I mean, we got Fred Warner making money. You got Bosa making money. You got Debo making money
at top positions.
You're going to have Trent Williams. He's going to make money again. You got
top position.
Ayuk. He's going to make money. So it's like you got like 7 guys. McCaffrey, he makes money. We got the highest fullback in the league. So somebody's going to be gone. Debo's going to be gone next year, but I think somebody else is going to be gone too. I mean, you got to pay the quarterback. So 2-3 players going to be gone.
My point was that it's about the cap hit, and the way they constructed Mahomes' deal, his cap hit isn't there just yet. No. So I just looked it up. He is 6th this year for cap hit with only 37 million on the cap. I was going to say 40. Crazy to say.
Okay.
But how Cleveland's supposed to win with a $63 million cap hit.
And look at Dak Prescott.
55 million.
Yeah, exactly.
50 million. And Kyler Murray at 50 million or 49.1. Daniel Jones at 47, Stafford at 46. Mahomes is 6 behind these folks.
Yeah, because
Lamar Jackson's deal seems very reasonable at a balmy $32 million. Josh Allen at 30. So, anyways, again, it's really about the impact on the rest of the cap. So
yeah, I never really care about the average per year. Just what's your cap hit for that year? That's all I'm concerned about. That's all I'm concerned.
It's gonna be interesting to see, because I think the Niners are gonna have that dilemma pretty soon, because you got to pay Purdy. Right. I think you got 2 years though, right? Before you got to pay him, or
no. We got to pay him after this season.
This off season.
Yeah. It's after this year. So.
And they're gonna pay him. They're not gonna go.
I don't think he'll be the highest paid quarterback. I think he understands he needs a team, but we'll see. See what happens.
He's gonna be top 10.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's still Brad.
Do you know who has the highest non-QB cap hit this year?
Hold on. Okay, tell me.
Max Crosby.
Wow.
Only a few shekels more than TJ Watt.
How much is that?
Him or Devontae?
30.4 for Crosby, 30.4 for TJ Watt. Like I said, it's a difference of like $50,000 between the two of them.
What's Bosa's? Isn't like 17 or 18 million this year? Or 21?
Joey Bosa?
No, Nick Bosa.
Well, Joey Bosa makes more than Nick Bosa this year.
Right. Right.
At
Nick,
26 million. Nick is.
I thought Nick was under 20.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's pretty far
Solid,
down the
solid.
list. I'm still scrolling.
Okay,
yeah.
That's helpful. They needed that.
So
Right.
speaking of $100 million in guaranteed money, our colleagues, I'll call them our colleagues, the Kelsey brothers struck a deal with Amazon today for $100 million to do their podcast.
Good for that.
Not bad side jobs if you can get it. So, Glenn, you're gonna start working on our
Yeah.
Well,
Start getting some stuff out there, some clips.
So yeah, if y'all could just play in a Super Bowl and win one, that'd be great. We can get
so
it rolling.
I have to say, look, I'm happy for them. Their podcast is actually really good. It's interesting. It's entertaining. Yada yada, all the different things. I think there are other that are more entertaining, probably more educational, so on and so forth. But theirs is good. I have to say that about $50 to $60 million of that is the Taylor Swift impact on the viewership of the Kelsey brothers. Had they done this podcast deal a year earlier before they became a public item, or down the line once they're done? And I think a lot of it is people want to see it play out. There's people who are wagering that they don't make it, they get married. But I think a very sizable chunk of the guaranteed money that those two are getting as part of the deal is because of Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
That's evident by there being some really good other podcasts out there that are nowhere in that stratosphere, right? There's a bunch of, adult-oriented ones and other lifestyle type ones that are making that kind of money. The only one of the podcasts. And think about that. You got top talent on ESPN getting fired left and right these days. Talent on Fox. I don't think they have talent, but people on Fox getting fired. And you got two people who basically started recording them talking to each other on a weekly basis because they're brothers and putting it out as a podcast. And that's how it kind of started for them, is this shooting the crap. And they just got $100 million on top of their very, very sizable NFL careers, because both of them are excellent.
Yep. Not bad. Rich getting richer. Yeah, that's a good note. Kind of sliding from that. I mean, players that have been cheered for. Coop, you mentioned kind of anybody that we're watching that we just cheer for, or players that we want to see do well in the league.
Yeah.
Give me one of yours so I can kind of get an idea of your thought process.
Well, yeah. So the reason I brought it up is because, when we talk basketball, we have guys that, we cheer for. Like, for instance, there's, guys, I think he's not a Hall of Fame, but I've always liked Rod Strickland as a point guard, or Earl Watson as a basketball player. Sure. Brian's always liked Brandon Ingram. These guys aren't, they're probably borderline all-stars, whatever, but, they're not a championship team's going to be built around, but we root for them. So I want to ask you guys the same question, but just for football aspect. And I know a guy that I root for, just to mention one before you guys go, is Bryce Young. And I know he's small,
I didn't know
very
that.
small.
Okay.
I've always liked him in college. I thought he was a very good college quarterback. I did not know he was 5'10" and a half, but I knew he was small. I thought he was about maybe 6 feet, 6'1". And I just saw the beating he took against Georgia in the championship game, and just kept getting back up and still slinging the ball downfield and not being, scared to sit in the pocket, take the hits and make throws. And I said, that's what an NFL quarterback does. And yeah, it hasn't worked out for him in Carolina.
Yeah, it's 1 year. It's 1
year. Yeah, 1 year. But, he has a new offense coordinator now, the guy from Tampa Bay, a new coach, I'm sorry. The guy, offense coordinator from Tampa Bay
David
came
Canales.
up there. So, yeah, so maybe that might help him out a little bit. I don't know. I still don't know if he'll even be a decent NFL player after that first year, but we'll see. But I root for him. I want him, to do well. So that's why I brought that up. He's a guy I'm looking forward to watching this year to see if he has taken any steps. And I want to know if there's any players that you guys, one or two players you guys root for. Not pretty much a player maybe most people don't know or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's real easy for me. Actually, Glenn and I were talking about it during the draft.
We're gonna say the same
Hopefully
guy.
Not stealing. Yeah,
go for it.
I'm rooting actively for Keon Coleman.
Yep.
Buffalo. He is incredibly entertaining. I feel like his heart and his desire are all in the right place. He's in a fight for the third wide receiver in Buffalo. So he needs someone rooting for him. I'm glad to do it, but he is He is someone who's very, very affable. He doesn't need to try hard to get along with a crowd of reporters or people. There's always video footage of him doing a little bit of extra. Like it was the one I saw just yesterday. He was running and a football kind of falls into his arms, and his first inclination was, "Oh, they dropped it." And he picked it up and he's like, "Oh, who dropped the thing?" And he was looking to give it back to them, and they're like, "No, but you sign it." And he was kind of did a double take. Oh, okay. Some of that is when you're fighting for a third string spot, you don't think people want you to sign an autograph stuff, but at the same time, he's made a little bit of a name for himself. So I know, Glenn, you kind of have the same feelings on that.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. Now I'm trying to think of who else. I mean, there's probably so many, but it's like that was the first one that was in my mind. I'm trying to think of.
Sorry, I could have also gone Zach Charbonnet for familiar reasons. I am rooting for him. He also comes off as a very likable person, and he carries a family last name and is a distant relative. I do hope he also does well.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody, but same kind of scenarios, right? Those kind of workhorse guys. Maybe you're not a top pick, but you stick to a roster and make it work. I think a kind of Jacoby Myers for the Raiders kind of thing. Keeps his head down. He's not, rah. You're not really hearing him say nothing. You know what I mean? You ain't ever heard a complaint from him. But when he was with the Patriots, he was one of their top receivers. Let him go. He came over here to the Raiders, to Vegas. He's been a very solid receiver, one of our top guys. Blocks, in the run game, blocks in the passing game, does whatever's asked, is into the contact and just out of the way. You know what I mean? You ain't never heard nothing about Jacoby Myers talking about no kind of, no issues. So those kind of guys are always kind of fun to watch. So.
All right.
Good question. And kind
of. What's that?
No, go ahead.
No, I noticed that you guys mentioned, I guess, a couple. Keanu Coleman, that's a rookie, right, for Buffalo?
Yes.
He's a rookie. Yep. Okay. Yeah, a rookie. Actually, to be perfectly honest with you, Glenn, a rookie I'm interested in watching is Brock Bowers. Tight end. I just think he's a good player. I just think he's going to be good if you can give him the ball. I just think you guys got a good draft pick, and then I hope I'm right. I do think he's going to be a good player.
Yeah, me
Brock
too.
Bowers.
If you want to see him featured, just log on and just send me a request on Madden right now. You can see him featured in the passing game right now.
Good.
I feel the same. Definitely hoping to see what he does. A lot of these guys, I'm curious just to see. Yeah,
I'm actually here. I actually want to see Lad McConkey. He's a wide receiver from Georgia. He plays for the Chargers.
He's at the Chargers, right?
Yeah. I actually want to see how good. He was pretty decent in college to me. I'm not saying he's going to be a Hall of Fame player, but he might be one of those guys like a Jordy Nelson or Hunter Renfrow. One of these guys is always, can get open. Like there's a year or two where they're just always open. A Cooper Kupp or something like that. I'm wondering if he can pull off something like that, but we'll see. Harbaugh doesn't pass much, but we'll see.
We might want to transition to the rookie conversation because that's exactly where I was going.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yep. Okay, and so you mentioned McConkey.
Yeah.
I did not intend for my recent draft to be so rookie heavy, but I ended up with Lad McConkey, and so I am absolutely.
I was looking at him too, bro. I was looking at him too, especially in a keeper league.
Yeah, but typically I like to have one or two of those guys, not 18 full of them.
Sure.
And so, I also have Xavier Worthy, who I think is a rookie worth watching. And
I was watching him too.
Because he's extremely talented and obviously going to be in an offense where with Mahomes throwing the ball where Mahomes is really good at distributing it. So you will get opportunities. He does not focus in on any one player. So you will have an opportunity to make plays. It'll be interesting. But yeah, Lad. And then, I've also got Jonathan Brooks, who's he's starting this
physical, unable to perform. Yeah.
He's not on the PUP list. He's on the non-football injury list, which he was only eligible for, even though he got injured while playing football. It was in college, so they let him be on the NFI list. Just different rules and saved him a different kind of spot. But yeah, Jonathan Brooks, who I think is actually or was a very, very talented, probably the most talented of the running backs who came in the league. But you got to play football. He's another guy on my roster here that of more rookies than I intended. So I'm rooting for rookies more than I probably would in normal years. I usually maybe pick one a little bit late. I don't go for them early, but yeah, lots of rookies this year. Bowers, I think, is going to be good. Trey McBride, who had a pretty good year last year, but still young. But Brock Bowers, the tight end battle the tight end role is getting deep.
Man, minor the quarterbacks, man. I want to see. Drake May was looking fairly solid in that preseason game, right? It's preseason, you're playing against backups in the third game, but he was slinging the ball, looking kind of solid, moving around a little bit. So I'm curious.
Saw what his coach said, right?
He plays for New England.
But you saw what the New England coach said, right?
What did he say?
He said Drake May outplayed Brissett in the preseason, but that's not the only thing I need to think about.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So Brissett going to start, right? Because he should start.
Yeah, I think he got injured.
Well, he got hurt, but they said he's okay. He got hurt in the last game, a little shoulder thing. But he's got 2 weeks, so he'll probably be fine. But it will not be surprising if they go down a few games quick that they're moving to Drake May quickly. I think
him and Penix, man. Penix is.
Man.
I'm very curious, right? That's an interesting scenario. They said, so the thought process is that the Falcons are going along the lines of like a Green Bay, right? What Green Bay's done is drafted quarterbacks. I think Love might actually been in the first round, but end of the first round, right?
He was, like 23 or something.
You draft a quarterback, you let him sit, you may not have that chance. The thought process, they're not going to have, if they're good, they're not going to have a chance to draft a player like Penix again. He's not going to come around. A fast lefty, that they've liked in the past, right? I'm not saying he's Vickish. I'm just saying, his ball placement looks good. He's got a strong arm. And I like the thought process that could create a quarterback controversy. I don't think the Falcons are going to struggle like that, especially with the defensive
not with that schedule.
I think they're going to be solid, which is great, right? Because he doesn't have to jump in. But on the same flip, I do think there's a possibility that Kirk Cousins loses a game or two. And you get Penix in there, and they look all right, and that interesting thing. So
I don't think they'll go to Penix that quick. I don't think
I'm
so.
saying if Cousins gets injured, which we've seen every year at least.
Injured, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. He's going to lose a couple games, right? Kirk Cousins gets an ankle or something. He's going to lose 2 games. You're going to play Penix. He looks all right.
He might lose his job at that point in time. You're saying.
It's interesting thought.
Well, I just think they're paying too much money, but I don't know. I mean, it's weird I haven't been able to figure out exactly what that GM is rooting for, right? Because he paid a lot of money to Cousins and then immediately put a lot on the line for pick. So usually you want to root for your free agency big signings to do well and your number one draft picks. Also, we talked about kind of the downstream wide receivers in Worthy and McConkley. But we at the top of the kind of rookie rankings is Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Romeo Dunze. I think all 3 of those, it's going to be real interesting because they're going to be the 3 non-quarterback players who are fighting for rookie offensive player of the year. MVP will likely be Caleb or Jaden just because they always favor the quarterbacks in that situation should they play. But Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, and Romeo Dunze is going to be a very, very interesting week-to-week battle to watch who does better, who has the best opportunity.
Which wide receivers?
Harrison has.
Say those receivers again. Which one? Harrison?
Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Romeo
Malik
Dunze.
Neighbors. Okay.
Yeah.
If you ask me, I think Harrison might have the better stats of the 3. Because I don't think he has anybody to play
certainly,
with.
But it's just the situation.
Yeah.
And that's because he has Kyler Murray, who's a little bit more established.
Right.
I got a Dunze.
Well, there's more mouths to feed in Chicago besides the Dunze.
I think that also means that as a defense, you can't just key in on who else you going to key in on Arizona.
Well, but the thing is, when you're getting blown out by 20, you can start racking up stats in the late 3rd and 4th quarter, and they don't really care at that point. They're not trying to lock you up. You know what I mean? So you can do what Jerry Stackhouse is doing in the NBA. 4th quarter, you're getting blown by 20, you put 10, 12 points up. You're in the game with 20, 21 points. Doesn't mean you had a great game, but the stats look good at the end. You know what I mean? So
I think Harrison's going to have the best stats.
Right.
But I think Dunze is going to become the best wide receiver
when it's all said and done. Okay.
Yeah, when it's all said and done. I thought he was the most talented actually coming in. I thought Harrison did some things that were unreal, and Dunze did it all the time.
Okay. I think Harrison will be better than the Dunze when the career is over, but we'll see. I see where you're going, but I don't think Neighbors will because Neighbors just doesn't have a quarterback.
Yet.
Yeah. So
Harrison was the name. Dunze was he was super consistent.
Dunze was. Yeah. and he made
Just
some
his
tough
numbers in
contested
college were
catches.
just as good.
I just feel like
Yeah.
there are more mouths to feed, but I think that makes it, you get a connection, you can move the ball around. I don't know who Kyler's throwing to.
And
That's
last
why I
rookie that
avoided
I
Marvin.
wanted. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's why I avoided Marvin in the draft. Go ahead.
And the last, which is funny, there's only really 2 running backs worth talking about, but I do want to see what Trey Benson is doing in Arizona. Connors has, I think, the 3rd highest cap hit of a running back this year, but I could still see Trey Benson getting to the point where he takes that job. I mean, he is talented like that, and I think Connors is someone that you can beat. I say that as somebody who has Connors in the team, but I think he is someone that you can go and take that job if you play well and try hard. And Trey Benson is solid.
Yep. That's what I got. Y'all got anything else? Otherwise, just slide to the last couple segments.
No, I'm good.
So hogwash, man. Again, Brian started this saying something was a bunch of hogwash. We created our own segment for it, and every week we go with something that you think is hogwash in the world of sports or otherwise. I really don't have one at the current moment, so I don't know if you guys got one.
Yeah, I do. Hogwash is everybody who got an NFL head coaching job from the New England Patriots coaching tree. All those coaches are hogwash. I said but a couple of years ago on this podcast that Brian Flores will never get a head coaching job again because he doesn't get along with offensive personnel, and he couldn't stand Tua, and Tua couldn't stand him. Well, now I stand corrected. Tua, it's not that Tua couldn't stand him. Tua hated this dude. Okay, he said to put it in simplest terms, if you woke up every morning and I told you suck at what you did, that you didn't belong, and that you shouldn't be here, and that some other guy should be here, and that you haven't earned it, and then somebody else comes in and tells you, yo, you're the dude, you're the guy, you're accurate, you're the best fit for this, how would that make you feel listening to one or the other? And he had to hear the negativity all the time from Brian Flores the entire time he was there, and he said he was starting to believe everything that he said because he was just so damn negative towards him. And I just started thinking about all these other coaches. Brian Flores, he's hell of abrasive. Romeo Crennel, he never figured out offense. Eric Mangini, he talks on TV like he knows everything, but he's never got another head coaching job again. Joe Judge was a disaster with the Giants. Josh McDaniels is arrogant and just can't coach. And Matt Patricia, the Lions got good when he left. So all these guys that came from the Bill Belichick coaching tree, they all suck. They're terrible. They have an arrogance about them. They have an air about them, and none of them coach. And so that's why I said that whole coaching tree is bad. It's toxic. I don't know why people still hire them. Stay away from that Bill Belichick coaching tree. And that's the only reason why I said it's toxic, because of what Tua said about the experience with Brian Flores. There was more, but I just kind of summed up a little bit of what he said.
Yeah. That was, you can't do what Bill did because he had the whole process behind it. You can't bring that over to a new place. Good point. B?
Yeah. So I'm going to change up sports and go over to golf and talk about some things that I think are hogwashes related to the rules. There's been a lot of conversation about some of the kind of weird, long-standing rules that exist in the realm of golf. If you snap your driver, which happened twice in the playoffs last week, one was bending over to put a tee in the ground and was leaning on the driver a little bit, snapped, and decided he couldn't have a driver for the rest of the round. Weird rule. Why? Like, you break a baseball bat and on a swing, you go get another damn bat, because that shouldn't be the reason impact. Now, someone throws their thing and breaks it, great, penalize them for being a poor sport, but that's silly. The other thing is that there's another rule for those of you who play or watch golf where your ball can land in a random divot. Now, when you're playing and you're the final group, and everyone has been playing before you, and there's 60, 70 people going over there. The group that goes first, no divots in the same place. These players land in the same place. If your ball lands in a divot, as we all know who play golf, you pick the damn thing up and you move it over, and whoever complains or whines about it, you tell them to shut the heck up and move on with your day. It should not be something that impacts the quality of what you get to see or the game, because you got a little bit of dumb luck and hit it the exact same spot that someone 4 hours before hit it to and didn't fix correctly. The other is mud balls. If you're, on a course that's wet and you happen to get a little bit of mud on your ball, why do we only make it in certain instances where you can clean it off and other whether you can't, and it impacts the results. Some of the top players fell by 2 or 3 strokes over the course of the playoffs as a result of things that are just luck. It was not their skill. You cannot hit a ball 343 yards and not aim for a strip that's 2 inches by 6 inches in the middle of a fairway, which was otherwise hit. So it's a bunch of hogwash. It's actually been impactful in watching the playoffs, and it's about time that they get off the ceremony of those being long-standing rules and fix it.
Solid.
All right.
Word. Last segment, minute to win it. Chance to just talk about anything that's on your mind. Go for it.
Well, Brian usually is a closer on this one, so I'll start on this one. I was doing my NFC East breakdown for next week, and there is a coach coaching in the NFC East that I guess I forgot. Maybe we talked about it. I just forgot he was coaching in the NFC East. Before I mention his name, I want you guys know I used to talk, about Hugh Jackson. How he took the job with Cleveland, knowing he was going to get fired, blah, blah, blah. What I'm saying? He's never going to get another head coaching job again because he took that bad job. And, me and Brian went back and forth on that. But I will say that even though that happened to Hugh Jackson, all the things I talked about Hugh Jackson, to me, in my mind, he's still a better coach than Cliff Kingsbury. I did not know he was the offense coordinator with the Washington. I don't know who they are now, lieutenants, whatever.
He almost was a coordinator for us.
He is the offense coordinator for the Washington football team, and this is a guy.
Daniels.
This is a guy who, in my mind, epitomizes failing upward. I just don't think he's a good coach at any level and never has been, but yet he keeps ascending to these jobs that he should not have, in my opinion. So the fact that he's offense coordinator of an NFL team, he wasn't really good as a coach at Arizona Cardinals. He's actually bad. He had Mahomes in college and still couldn't win more games than he lost. But this guy keeps getting jobs. I guess people keep believing in this guy, and I just can't believe he's the offense coordinator for an NFL team. Cliff Kingsbury is the epitome of a guy who fails upward. But that's my minute to win it.
Man, he was he had 2 jobs, man. He was signed with the Raiders pretty much in the building, and then decided he didn't want the job and went to the Generals. So crazy. Yeah, he's sought after. It's a solid one. Man, I just thank everybody for listening. I don't really have anything specific. B.
Switching sports again and going to baseball, something pretty outstanding is happening, and I get to see it a little more up close because it's happening in LA. Shohei Ohtani is having a season like no other, and it's one of those things where, like when you had Barry Bonds in San Francisco, you don't have to wait long to see it. So he is so amazing. Every game, he does something that is absolutely incredible. I was there with a bunch of our friends, and we were in the cheap seats way up. And he hit a relatively good ball pretty hard into the outfield and simply just outran the play to get a triple out of it. It was incredible to see. And then later on, he got, steal number 37. Since I think about a week ago, he has since joined the 40-40 club with 40 home runs and 40 steals. It's one of the most exclusive clubs in baseball. He's done it faster than anyone. And there's actually a slim possibility, but realistic possibility, that he could be the only person in the 50-50 club with 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases. He is the best baseball player playing the sport right now by a pretty significant margin. And let's not forget, he won the damn Cy Young. He's only not pitching this year because he just had to have Tommy John surgery, and he can't play. He can't throw a ball for this year, which is why he's only batting. So with the working himself back from a Tommy John surgery, he is the best player in baseball as a designated hitter, doing something that's never been done before and faster than anyone's ever done it. So I know most of you and most of us are not baseball fans or baseball watchers or whatever, but if you have an opportunity to watch him play, if you Dodgers are coming into the Oakland A's or even the Giants, which I know they do, but he is incredible to watch. And every single at bat, it's almost as if you're just waiting to see what the incredible thing is going to be. And it's either legging out a triple, stealing a base for number 45 or 46 or 43 or whatever it is at this point, or just smoothing we call it smoothing when you hit a bomb in golf, just smoothing a home run 360 feet.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, me and Glenn went when he was with the Angels to opening day, and he was seventh inning, still throwing gas like it was the first inning. I mean, still had an arm, and he's bigger than I thought. He's a big dude. He is not a small guy. He's huge,
and he's fast.
Yes. Yeah, he is big. He's a big guy. So yeah, definitely agree. He's the best player.
And I know that there's going to be some people in the middle of the United States with some pickup trucks and things like that who are going to be a little disappointed that the best player to ever play the game, if things continue on this pace, is going to be a kid from Japan. But he's incredible.
Yeah,
he's absolutely freaking incredible.
Yes, he is.
Dope, man. That's awesome. We'll end it right there. Sports Counterpoints, August 27, 2024. We'll catch y'all next week. Peace.